Welcome to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show. Thanks for being on the air with me.
Well, it's great to be here.
Thank you very much. So, David, I just want to kind of introduce yourself to my audience and everything. First of all, tell me a little bit about what it is that you do.
Well, what our company does, what Legal Fee Advisors does, is we're a group of attorneys, and what we do is we help mostly corporations, but more now regular people, find ways to understand their legal bills, make sure they're getting value and efficiency, and get a good, fair deal.
Now, you've been in business or in the attorney field for about 25 years, and you're a former practicing attorney. Am I correct?
Yes, I ran my own law firm for almost 20 years.
And I see that you've been featured in many publications from the Wall Street Journal, CNN, Money and Forbes. So you're definitely, obviously an expert in your business. What kind of, how did you make the transition from being an attorney to be basically a consultant? What kind of spurred that motivation?
Well, basically, after the course of about 20 years, I was starting to go into various types of businesses and leaving the active practice of law. And one of the things that I noticed is that there was a real disconnect between attorneys and their clients on how to bill and how to make sure that the client understands what they're buying and feels good about the process. This isn't true for all lawyers, but it's true for enough that people sometimes actually make jokes about it. And I wanted to see if we could do something that could bring the two sides closer.
Okay, and how long have you been in the consulting area of the business?
Approximately 6 years.
6 years, and you've worked with many Fortune 1000 companies on their billing processes, am I correct?
That's true.
Okay. So tell me some of the ways that you basically get in and help people deal with their attorneys. Do you come in at the onset of the retainer or the agreement, or is this something people call you after the fact, after they're already dealing with their attorney? Maybe they feel they're not getting a good deal. How do you work into the process?
Well, for large companies, they spend so much on legal fees, up to $1 billion a year for some companies.
Wow.
That, the idea of how to control this and make it efficient is just as important to them as how they rent office space or buy property or anything else. For smaller companies and for individuals, though, many times we get contacted after they already have a problem.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is turn that around a little bit and get people a little bit more informed, a little bit smarter about the process of how they actually hire a lawyer, how to get an estimate, how to get other documentation in place before they start to see those bills.
And I know myself, I had an employment issue years ago, and it seems like when you walk into an attorney's office, they kind of seem to have like that aura of power over and they kind of like whatever they say goes. They hand you a retainer agreement, and I remember signing the retainer agreement, and I don't even know if I ended up using all of the money within that retainer agreement. I really was kind of at a loss, for the situation that I was in. Do you see this a lot with people as well, that they really just kind of sign where they say sign and just take the attorney's words for what they say?
Right. I absolutely see this all the time. And this varies from just regular people hiring a lawyer all the way up to at least to small corporations. They kind of feel at a real disadvantage when it comes to working with their lawyer. After all, the lawyer's supposed to be on their side. How do you now question whether the lawyer is giving them a fair deal or a transparent deal? What we do is we help people through this process. We help them get a retainer agreement that is fair. We help them get estimation for their services that are going to be rendered and really control it in the way you might control hiring a contractor or hiring someone else who's going to be very expensive.
Now, one thing I noticed on your website, again, legalfeeadvisors.com, you advise people not to sign a retainer agreement, and that's kind of seems to be like the industry practice. They hand you a retainer, you put down a large deposit, but you're saying, you should probably take some time to step back to review the services that they're going to provide you. Am I correct?
Yes. I think that if for many things in our lives, transparency is so important. We want to understand what we're buying. And as most people know, if you go out to buy an automobile today, there's so much online information about how that ought to be priced and how you should buy it. And there's more transparency now in buying an automobile. The problem with buying services from a lawyer isn't so much that the lawyer would not answer questions if asked. Most people don't ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I said, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So all I was going to say is, if you can say this retainer agreement is okay, but I really don't understand these 3 or 4 sections here, can you give me some kind of estimate as to what this part of the transaction will cost? Who will be working on it? What kind of range is there? What can I expect?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all fair questions.
And like I said, it seems like every time you call in an attorney, they're going to, that's how they make their money, is on billable hours. And so if you call in an attorney, you're going to be on the clock. But one thing I wasn't certain of, if I send the attorney an email, is he going to bill me, $10 an email or a response? I mean, what is that's just a kind of an off the topic question I have. How does email generally handled with an attorney? So many people want to just email back and forth versus calling. What do you see in the industry with communicating with attorneys via email?
Well, there are 2 parts to your answer. First of all, in negotiating the retainer and bills, attorneys ethically should not be charging their client for time spent talking about a bill or talking about the retainer. So that literally should be off the clock.
Okay.
Because that's the creation of the relationship. That's not actually legal work.
Okay.
With respect to email, though, that's a very interesting question. One of the easy things that people can do when they hire a lawyer is say, I would like your time, I would like notations for your time in tenths of an hour instead of in 0.25s or quarter of an hour. Some law firms are still billing in quarter of an hour increments. And what that means, getting back to your email question, is that if you send an email that said something like, can I come to your office to talk to you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and they said yes, if their minimum time increment is a 0.25, you could end up spending a lot of money for that email.
That's a very... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And what I was just going to say is, it's very, very important to make certain that that does not become the type of situation where the attorney does extremely small things,
mm-hmm.
and you're charged for those.
And I know in the real estate business, I'm constantly going back and forth with clients, and I'm thinking if I was an attorney and as a real estate agent, I'm expected to be available at all times. If I provided the same level of responsiveness as I do to my clients from an attorney's perspective, I would probably be racking up a lot of different billable hours. But with an attorneys, they kind of seem not to want to kind of communicate via email, and they kind of want to keep their knowledge kind of held back. And I always laugh the fact that the industry still relies heavily on the fax machine, and that's something that's pretty much gone the way of the dinosaurs. But yet you still see attorneys using the fax machine to send a lot of their demand letters and communications.
Yeah, and let me just make a comment about that. There are many, many lawyers and law firms out there that have embraced technology completely, and they utilize that technology to create tremendous efficiency for their clients. And I think that is, you just hit on something that's super important. One of the things to ask the lawyer is, how will you be communicating with me? Mm-hmm. How will you be saving me money mm-hmm. by being efficient?
Gotcha. Okay.
And if a lawyer is in some way offended by that, that's not being fair to you. You have a right to ask for efficiency.
Mm-hmm. And David, tell me a little bit about some of the what area of law were you practicing when you were practicing attorney?
I was a commercial litigator. So I dealt with lawsuits ranging from partnership disputes to insurance disputes to disputes involving real estate problems, basically everything that one might see.
Gotcha.
Involving the commercial world.
Okay, David, stay on the line here. I got to take a quick break. But coming back from the break, we're going to be talking a little bit more with David Page of LegalFeeAdvisors.com. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Jamie Meloni Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ.